If you enjoy listening to The Edge, support them by subscribing to The Edge on iTunes, Stitcher, and you can listen through the iHeartRadio app. Get busy listening.
This is The Edge.
The advantage it means.
Hey, look, I just spit on me for no reason.
That's horrible.
Is there some comfort in uncertainty, do you think?
You're a degenerate.
Because Australian Shepherds need action.
Wow. Yeah.
This is The Edge.
That's a self-loathing term that I use for.
Oh, got it.
edge-show.com.
edge-show.com.
Hi, this is Mark Thompson. Welcome to this episode of The Edge. Why is it called The Edge? If you haven't heard it explained, I'll tell you quickly now in 15 seconds or less. It was going to be a show about gambling and having a gambling edge, and then we're going to expand it to travel, getting an edge on travel, and then bargain shopping. But all of that went away when my partner in the project got a job and moved to a different city, and so I was left with the name The Edge, but I'm happy to have it. But for those who ask about how we got the name, now you know. Today, Spike Feresten joins us. Spike has been involved in so many projects that you're familiar with. Big part of Seinfeld, wrote the B-movie, the movie that Jerry Seinfeld did, who's also very closely involved with David Letterman. In fact, just recently saw David Letterman, and we'll talk about his involvement with the Letterman show and David personally and all that stuff. By the way, he had his own late-night show, and I was a real fan of his show on Fox. So Spike will sprinkle some of his magic dust on our show in this episode. We'll start with an apology that I issue to Michael Shure, and we touch on the travel ban as well. When we do the Fast 15, the first 15 minutes of the show is a visit with Michael Shure. Thank you, as I do every week. I want to acknowledge those of you who've shared this show with others. There are those who do that, and it really matters. You've left 5-star reviews, and you leave nice comments on the iTunes page where our show lives. That does help us. All this stuff matters. And finally, I don't mention it enough, there is an Amazon click-through on our website, edge-show.com. If you click on that Amazon link and do your shopping through that link, it's the same Amazon, but we get a little piece of whatever you've spent, and all of the money goes to keeping the show on the air. And that goes for the PayPal link as well. So any contribution you make to this show will stay with this show. No one will make money on this show. It's just not part of our plan. In fact, our plan is to lose money on the show, and we're really moving along with that plan nicely. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
This is The Edge. edge-show.com.
Time for the Fast 15, politics, and more. It's Michael Shure, everybody.
Hey.
Wow.
Thank you.
Come on.
My God, look at that. The
Man.
summer crowds are starting to come in now, and it's
Settle.
nice to see that. Yeah.
Michael, it's great to have you here, and I owe you an apology. Because the last time you were here last week, you were talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs. You were enthusiastic, and I sort of feel as though I may have kind of offended you a little bit. And here's what I mean. Jerry, play last week, please. Jerry's going to play what we.
Okay.
This is you and me last week.
I want to add before we go, when you're listening to this, wherever you are in the world, this is what's happening as you're listening to it in this little time frame. The National Hockey League Stanley Cup Finals are being played. Do yourself a favor and watch. It's just fantastic.
And you're making a
I've never
good
watched
point
the
here,
Stanley
I
Cup
think.
Finals, and you get to see Sidney Crosby, who is the best hockey player in the world. And it's always, even if you don't care about hockey, it's always great to see someone who's the best at what they do in the world do it. You'll have a good time.
What a nice so he hits that little black thing around? See
Yeah,
how
he does indeed. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, that's not how everybody looks at it.
See,
but
I put
he,
it down.
He slaps rubber.
I feel
and he does
bad
it
about
well.
that. He can skate backward, right?
Yeah,
See, and I put
some
it down
of them
again.
do, and he's one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. See, I kind of feel like
Well, you know, there's a thing about being a hockey fan that you've sort of taken that flack from people who don't know the sport for a long time.
Okay.
It is the runt of the litter of the big sports. If you know the sport and you like it and you've grown up as a fan of it, it doesn't matter. I just always have the feeling like, and of course it's you, so I don't care what you say because it's snark and it's funny and we're.
But you're about to
around.
say that those people are missing out, and they're
you're
they're
missing
losers.
The game. You're not losers. I'm just saying
You're going to say losers.
I wasn't even going to say losers. No. You don't get it. You're missing the game, and it's too good if you like sports, and I know you do, to just dismiss as the runt of the litter.
So I did watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we were still in the middle of them, and it was based on you pushing. I thought, I should check it out, and I did feel bad. I felt like, I
don't know why you do. You shouldn't have, honestly.
It was great, and then there was some record, like record shots on goal, or
Yeah, well, there was a record low shots on goal, and Pittsburgh didn't take a shot for 37 minutes in Game 1. I mean, and they won the game.
Game 1 was really weird. Pittsburgh scored a bunch of goals, and then they went dark.
I've watched so much hockey in my life. I mean, so much hockey. I've never seen a game that bizarre. They were totally outplayed. There were no shots in 37 minutes. They were up 3-0. It was tied. Then they won. I mean, it was a really strange game.
I want to thank you because I would not have watched that game had you not had that conversation on this show, and I did see it.
Just keep watching them. The game, it's going to be, presumably remain a tight series. Nashville's outplayed them in every aspect of the game, and they're not winning right now.
It's so weird that Nashville is this team because I associate hockey with cold weather cities like all those Canadian cities, and of course it's big in Russia and all the northern parts of Europe.
Nordic countries like Sweden, Finland, also in Slovakia and the Czech Republic.
How did Nashville get a team?
Because Gary Bettman wanted to grow he's the commissioner of hockey. He wanted to grow the game, and he thought by putting teams in far-flung places it would get people interested in the game. It failed in some places, and it succeeded wildly in others. Tampa, very successful. Nashville, very successful. Those are the only two, I think, of the far-flung that are crazy successful. Columbus Blue Jackets, you wouldn't expect a team in Columbus, but they're a huge population base. They're one of the top 10 cities in the country, I believe, in population. So that made sense, too. Nashville has totally embraced it. They've been there 18 years, so this is not just like they joined the league. They joined the league in a lot of people's minds a couple of years ago. They've been there for 18 seasons, and this is as far as they've gotten. And there's an only show in town type of thing too. When you are the Columbus Blue Jackets, there's not a lot to do with your entertainment dollar like there is in other cities like New York or Los Angeles, obviously. So they get automatically a pretty dedicated fan base, and Nashville has it. But Nashville has it to a degree that they're one of the 3 best buildings in hockey to go play in now because their fans are so over the top. They're the 7th man, they call them, like they do the Seattle Seahawks fans, the 12th man in football. It's unbelievable.
What do they do when I hear them chanting something?
Yeah, it's very. I mean, they have these choreographed and orchestrated chants that they do at certain times. They're unbelievable.
Incredible.
Yeah, and it's just like in England. If you are a fan of Premier League football in England, it's a lot like that. You go to a Fulham game and they have their chants about different players, about what they say, their old songs about Chelsea and all of that. Every team, every club in England has them, and the Predators have really played off of that, and it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
I invite you. Let's go to a game together next year when the Kings are back on the ice. We'll go to a game next
I'd
year.
love to. That'd be really great.
I feel like what I love is when there's sort of open-minded new blood. I feel like by this time next year, you're going to be really into hockey.
Just want to make the point, I am available for the balance of the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean,
all right, you want to go to Nashville? By the way, this is the only person I could say that to who would say, yeah, let's do that. I was like, okay. But I would love to go to Nashville. If there's a Game 6 in Nashville, Mark, we could even have the conversation.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I have friends in Nashville. I'm sure you do, too.
I do. It's Music City. It's the third wave of entertainment.
I know Reba McEntire. How's
do you
that?
really?
I do.
I don't. I know.
I don't know her to text her and say we're coming over.
I know Al Gore, and I don't know him.
That's strong.
That's strong, Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
I know Steve Cohen, the congressman but he's from Memphis.
The London terrorist attacks have the most recent ones involved driving into a crowd and the horror of the guys killing people with those swords.
Right.
Prior to that, the Manchester bombing had involved a bomb which looked like it was built with a lot of components that you associate with Middle Eastern bombs. This most recent one, which just occurred, which is as I mentioned, the trucks into the crowd and the swords, feels more homegrown, like ISIS-inspired, but not. They weren't sent out from the ISIS stronghold to hit London. Take me through 2 things. How do you, to use the overused word, unpack that in some way? And also, give me the politics of it, because Donald Trump, our president, has really seized on it.
Well, the first part, first of all, one word to be careful of is homegrown. And in your first question, it relates to the second question, because when you say homegrown, like you say Manchester versus London or whatever, the thematic thing that has to be looked at is that the person who did Manchester was a citizen of the United Kingdom, was homegrown himself. And so these are not and as is very often the case, and as is often misframed by the people who want to fight immigration, this has nothing to do. If there was an immigration ban, for example, that the United Kingdom had put in place, similar to the one that Trump wants to do here, it would not have stopped Manchester. We don't know if it would have stopped London, but presumably not. So there's a difference between the bomb being homegrown and the bomber being homegrown. And I don't think it matters, the bomb itself, because I think that the public and the people in politics who represent the public all have the same perception that these are essentially the same. If one is more rudimentary than the other, it's still informed by the same kind of, warped sensibility. So I don't think that matters as much. But you say unpack it, I just think it's, there are copycat crimes. Because somebody imitates a murderer in America and does a crime similar to another crime, it doesn't lessen the effect of it, nor does it mean that the things that caused the first crime shouldn't be addressed, whether it's guns or, bankruptcy, whatever it is, if there are things that cause people to lash out at workplaces and things like that. So then when you go to the politics of it, it's very complicated, usually. Ordinarily, it's not very complicated. This has become complicated. Donald Trump has used it to politicize his beliefs on immigration. And I think that is offensive to the English. It's certainly offensive to the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. And Trump has singled out the mayor of London for saying that telling people not to be alarmed. It is often what a mayor does, what Rudy Giuliani does, right? After 9/11, we're going to go back about our business. We're New Yorkers. Bill de Blasio does it when there's something in New York. We're going to go back, and that's the sort of attitude you have to take. We cannot let these people, quote unquote, win. They're winning sometimes, and that sucks. But in the overall, Donald Trump's not allowing that. He's saying, no, because of what happened, we have to stop immigration. We have to put in a Muslim ban. It's the first time he called it a ban. He's been talking about how it's a pause, a timeout, but he referred to it as a ban. He undermines himself all the time with this interaction on Twitter. So I think the politics of it are very different. England is now seeming more distant from the United States because of this. Maybe it'll come back. Of course it will. We're old friends. But it puts Theresa May in the middle of an election in a funny spot. If you're Jeremy Corbyn, who's running against her as the Labour Party candidate, it puts him in a funny spot because you don't want to politicize it yourself over there. This is a time to mourn and a time to say we've got to be more vigilant about fighting this stuff. The other part of it, and this is the last thing, we don't know how well they're doing. That's the thing about intelligence. That's the thing about, Homeland Security. We don't know their victories. We just know their losses. And that's unfortunate. So the UK might be doing an unbelievable job of protecting its citizens against terror, and there's not much you can do better than that.
You mentioned the Muslim ban. President Trump's travel ban is now going to be pushed to the Supreme Court at his insistence. Do these tweets, do these references, you read so much about, Trump's undermined his case in the Supreme Court because he called it a Muslim ban.
But he does. Just because he called it a Muslim ban does do that, because that indicates something about him, and that's entered in evidence. Robert Mueller and James Comey and that whole conversation, there's talk of an executive action that the president could take to prevent Comey's testimony, right? Well, he can't now because he's written letters about it. He's tweeted about it. He's gone on TV about it. He has opened that up. A president with greater control and greater understanding of how this is done, he wouldn't have that problem that Trump has. So he undermines even the things that I think, that you should never quash testimony anyway. So I'm on the side of everybody should testify. But even if it's in his interest and his supporters' interest that Comey not testify, doesn't matter. He blew it. He blew that whole strategy because he can't control himself. And that's, we've seen that a lot.
Anything else we wanted to get to? I think we've got good hockey.
If you've got hockey and politics, I think you've really you've had a good day.
I will mention one thing. I don't mention it much on the show. Yesterday was National Animal Rights Day.
Yeah.
And there were demonstrations all over. I think if you weren't kind of looking for it, you weren't going to find it. It may be lost in the wash of stuff going on. But I will mention those who care about those things that don't have a voice, like the environment, like these creatures. Even though a cow can't bark like a dog, it has all those same feelings that your dog has. And so I mentioned this again the day after National Animal Rights Day, that our food is so packaged for us that it doesn't resemble that thing that it came from. So all of us can be forgiven for not remembering that there was a real sentient feeling creature associated with that. And what they do to those creatures is unspeakable. It's a torture beyond any horror movie you could ever imagine, every moment of every day. And so I remind you, every little thing that anybody does helps. On that up note,
well, come to an up note about it. Talk about the legislation that just passed, animal rights legislation, related legislation in California.
Well, in California, you're talking about the puppy mill legislation?
Yeah.
In California, they just outlawed pet stores from selling dogs from puppy mills, and that's a huge victory because puppy mills, I think they call them Class B dealers, are these places where these animals, they're packed in. All they're doing, I mean, puppy mill is the right description, is they're cranking out these puppies for purchase in a pet store. Now, there are licensed breeders of various kinds, and that those are not included in this group. But there are a lot of puppy mill proprietors who do just this. So this is huge. And by the way, thank you for mentioning it, because when you buy a puppy, you are supporting that process, right?
It's no different than like boycotting an advertiser for advertising with something you don't approve of. I mean, you're boycotting that product so as to make a point. If you boycott buying a puppy from a puppy mill, you're making that point. And I think also to add on to that, which puts a really nice exclamation point on it, is that these pet stores are now required, I believe, or I don't know if it's a requirement, but they're going to be selling shelter dogs. So as not to hurt the small business, there are plenty of dogs in shelters that are now going to move into their inventory. It's a terrible way of saying it, but it's true, and it's fine because it's going to be shelter dogs who are going to be saved.
And when you get a shelter dog, you've saved two lives. You've saved the life of the dog that you've taken, and you've also saved the life of the dog that now moves into the pet store from the shelter. And
you've made your life better.
Maybe most of all. Yeah, it's mostly depressing, but there are victories like that, so thank you for mentioning that. And Wonder Woman is a Jew. I mean,
Wonder Woman's a Jew. This actress is Jewish.
She's Israeli.
Right.
The new Wonder Woman is Israeli.
Wonder Woman.
I know. There's so many.
There must be a lot of jokes.
There's so many bits.
I don't pay attention to this stuff, but that's great. Have you seen it?
Haven't seen Wonder Woman, but I've heard it's very good. Rotten Tomatoes, I think, it got like a 93.
I was going to go Friday night, but it was the Sabbath.
She's Israeli, Jewish, and it's not being shown in Lebanon because of that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's incredible. By the way, tease this for the next Edge show.
All right.
I went to a Jewish holiday dinner for Shavuot, which is a holiday obscure to most, important to many who are observant. I'm not, but I went as the guest at a Chabad ultra-Orthodox home. And there's so much to talk about.
Are you kidding me?
Not kidding.
We're bumping that to next week?
We're bumping it to next week.
All right, something to tune in for. Michael Shore! Thanks, Michael.
Thank you all. Thank you.
You're tuned to The Edge, edge-show.com.
Very excited. It's our Meet the Neighbors episode. Welcome, Spike Feresten. Oh, very nice. J. Elvis Weinstein is here.
Hello.
And
nice to meet you.
Heather Ankeny.
Hi.
This is good.
Yeah.
Spike, you really do live right down the road.
I do, yeah. I live right down the road. Please don't say where.
But Spike, you should know, is a very talented producer, writer, been involved in some of the biggest projects that I'll go through a couple of them. I mean, you were involved very heavily with Seinfeld. If you watch the Seinfeld episodes, your name is popping up constantly. Mm-hmm. How did you meet Jerry Seinfeld?
Gosh, back then it was a very small group of comedy writers. And essentially, if you were, I was writing for Saturday Night Live a little bit, and then on Letterman for 5 years, and you would get recruited, like for The Simpsons or Seinfeld, kind of off those shows. Same groups of writers.
Oh, that's right. And I was going to mention Letterman, too, because that was also sort of a weird work environment from what I understood.
With Dave? No, it was the greatest. I just worked with Dave again last week. We were shooting a pilot with one of his drivers for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing, and Dave did a scene with us down in St. Petersburg in Florida.
Fun.
And it was
that's
just
cool.
like old times.
No
when he
kidding.
went, "Oh, Spike, like that when I screwed up. It was just like old times.
Oh wow, cool. That's great to hear that.
And you worked
But
on
so
both.
much
You worked
fun.
on both NBC and CBS.
Yeah,
Letterman,
it was
right?
at the at late night and late show. But with Seinfeld, I had applied to the show. I had written stories with Jerry and or for Larry one year, and they didn't hire me, and I never really heard back about why not. And months later, Jerry was on the show. He was on Letterman, and I happened to get on the elevator on a Friday, and there's Jerry and Mary Connolly, the segment producer. And they're chit-chatting, and I'm the only other person on the elevator, and I'm, embarrassed as hell that I didn't get hired, and I know they're going to run out of stuff to talk about. And sure enough, at the 6th floor, they do. And Mary goes, "Oh, this is one of our writers, Spike Feresten." And Jerry goes, "Spike Feresten, didn't you do a submission for us?" And I go, "Yeah." And he says, "Whatever happened to that?" And I said, "Shouldn't you know?" And then the door opened, and then I walked out, and now I'm walking home on the Upper West Side of New York just going, what did I just do? What did I just do to my potential employer? I'm such an asshole. It's just one of those angry Fridays. But it left an impression because I was asked back the next year to write some more stories and got hired.
That's wild.
Yeah,
you would have
yeah.
thought that would be like an ender on
Well,
that.
he's
No, but
not a dude that cherishes warm and fuzzy. It doesn't
We've
seem
read
like.
this article before in magazines, the benefits of kind of being an asshole. And
Yeah.
I'm not frequently one, but occasionally, like all of us, I have my moments. I know you, Mark, which is kind of the reason we're here today. I had sort of an asshole moment. Would you like me to talk about
yes,
that? Well, this goes back a couple of days. I was having lunch with my agents at this weirdo place, Hinoki and the Bird. in
Oh
Century
yeah,
City.
that's kind of become the
Weirdo
dining room
place.
for CAA.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah.
well, that's why I was there. Anyway, this guy in a Hellcat drives up in the valet circle. Now, I don't know that that's you until I see you get out of it and come sit down. I'm sitting right across from you, by the way. You don't even notice that I'm
wow.
waving at you. You're
Did
not
you wave
saying
or
it.
not?
I did.
I
Yeah,
feel
I
bad.
did. I was winking. But maybe the glasses are foggy or I'm just out of your circle of friends at that point. But in any case, I thought, my business partner, we have a production company, he has a Hellcat. So we were all about your Hellcat. It's matte gray, right?
Right.
Beautiful car.
Yeah.
Really loved it. Now, 2 days later.
Save the planet.
Right? Come on, what are you talking about? We're having fun in cars. This is the morning commute in from the west side of L.A., where we are, right?
Next morning, yeah.
Yeah, I pull off my street onto Sunset, and suddenly this very aggressive Hellcat does a move that I had not seen before, where you're at the stoplight, 2 lanes stopped, and this Hellcat comes up in the left turn lane, light changes, blasts off. Now, first thing I noticed, because I'm a car guy, is, there's a cool Hellcat like Mark's. And then I pull up and I realize, well, that is Mark, but I can't catch him because he does it for the next 4 lights, all the way through
Oh, man,
Barrington
Mark.
Village, in places that either I'm having a baby, right? I'm having a baby. I've got to get to the hospital officer, or I'm a major league asshole.
And I guarantee you, he was probably still
So
late
what did I
to
do?
wherever he needed
Did I
to go.
tweet you?
Yeah, you DM'd me, direct messaged me on Twitter. You said, "Was that you in the Hellcat?" I
Yeah.
think, or something. And so you didn't reference the move, and I, knowing that I had done something, said, "Did I cut you off, or I'm not
Not me.
I'm not a
The
big one for-
entire west side of L.A. you cut off all at once. No, it made me laugh, and it made me laugh
and
harder
that's
when I
what-
knew it was you.
And Spike was so cool because I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope Spike doesn't think I'm a total a-hole. I'm going, hey, I'm so sorry if I offended you in any way. Blah blah blah. Please let me send you a small gift to And he goes, no, dude, I just ran a tourist off the road. I don't know, on PCH.
Inadvertently.
It's your way.
Yeah,
It's
I
like-
sent someone into oncoming traffic just that weekend before by mistake. It wasn't my fault.
It's like your way of being a Twitter egg. It's anonymous asshole dumb.
And now here we are, and now we're all together. See, it brought people together.
So
was-
that turned into want to come on my show?
Yeah,
It
Good
was
job, Mark.
great.
Good job.
Well, I hadn't seen him in so long, and he is a neighbor, and I thought this would be great, and I thought it'd be fun to have you on the show, and so that is how it all started, though. Yeah.
awesome.
And here's the other thing about Spike when it comes to cars. You do have, and that's why the Ray Hall thing and all this stuff with Letterman and the car thing and Seinfeld being a car guy, you're a car guy also.
Yeah, I've liked cars for an awful long time.
Now, where does that, did you grow up with, where'd you grow up?
In Massachusetts, in a small blue-collar town, That car to me always represented a thing to get away from my parents. Like I could get in this when I was 16. I was like, God, I can drive right away from them, and then I can eventually live away from them. So
why was that drive so hot to get away
you'd
from your
have to
parents?
meet my parents to understand that. But it was different back then. We talk about this a lot now because parents and I don't. You're not a parent, right? I have two kids, and parents now are really overeducated about how to raise them. The kids kind of end up liking you a lot, which is now they don't want to get away, which is why I think a lot of kids aren't into cars these days because they don't really want to get away. But for me, it was that thing, and I don't know. It's just either you have this thing or you don't, and it's stuck with you.
I also think it's a little bit, the car thing is a little bit of a guy toy thing. Even little kids, you know this then, being a parent, even when you see little kids, little boys gravitate to cars.
They like cars, and my kids like cars, military trucks, and guns. Wow. Nerf guns, explosives, anything. Anything.
How old are your kids?
9 and 7.
Oh, that's like a perfect age.
Yeah. And they would rather have a tank than I think any sort of Lamborghini or Porsche.
Hey, when your kids are 9 and 7, they're in schools where are they soliciting you for contributions all the time?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
How do you
Why?
go?
You want to give?
Well, I just, that's funny you say that because I just got a jump rope for heart kind of thing, and I just keep getting hit up because my friends' kids are now all the age finally in elementary school where I'm getting that, and I just feel like, isn't it sort of your job as a parent to just buy all that shit out?
No, it's nonstop. I've been on all sides of it, the public school and the private school side. It's just the money goes to different places. Like in the private school, the money tends to go to the lawyers who are fighting a lawsuit because of some development they want. Right. They want to take over more miles of school. And in the public school, they're so underfunded here in L.A., it literally goes to buying a librarian or a gym teacher.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's my private school friends. They should just purchase all the magazines. They should purchase the wrapping paper. I mean, sure, have grandma and grandpa
that's
get
a good lesson for your kids.
Say yes to
because like
everybody.
that last shred of responsibility you can teach your kids if you're already sending them to a $25,000.
But there's no happy place for any parent in any school in California, and I'm sure anywhere else. Okay. Your wallet or pocketbook is always open.
It's crazy.
But as Josh says, you're paying a shit pile to begin with.
Yep.
And so that's a tough thing to get your head around, it would seem. But you have the right attitude, which is, hey, man, that's just the price of doing business.
Yeah, no, not exactly. I complain about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
Okay, all right. So on the car thing, though, you did a show about cars, and it was a cool hook, I thought.
Right.
Tell everybody, it's a matchmaking...
Car matchmaker.
Car matchmaker,
right. And just to expand on the car thing, I like cars, but I don't know what I'm doing. I go to work for Letterman for 5 years. You know who Dave is, right? He's collecting Ferrari. He lets me drive his collection. I see Ferraris and Porsche. I didn't even know what these things were. And then I go from Letterman to Seinfeld and, what Jerry's up to. So there's my kind of car and comedy education, and I spin out of there. And, it never left me. I've always, because we're in cars so much here in L.A., I always like to be in something fun. And, currently I'm driving race. I drop my kids off in an old race car at school where they put on the racing harness and we go down. It's this old race car from 1968. And that makes my day good. There are very few things that do. I don't golf or I don't do anything like that. So it's kind of my hobby. Car Matchmaker was born out of this. I was helping sell probably 20 or 30 cars a year just with friends. I'm sure since you're a car guy as well, people call you for advice. I happen to have a lot of luck kind of making deals with people and getting them in cars that they liked. And one of those people was Ellen Racketon, Oprah Winfrey's producer. And she called me up one day and said, why don't we do a show about you getting people cars? And I said, sure, as long as I can just be myself and make it like a late night remote while I'm doing it. And she goes, because you're kind of like this car matchmaker guy. And I went, well, I could sell that idea. It's a dumb title. I hate it, but I think we can make a funny show that will redefine the title. And we walked into this fledgling network, Esquire Network, and they bought it on those 2 words. It was a 2-word pitch.
No way.
Yeah. They said, we want it. Now tell us what the show is. It was one of those magic pitches, which there are very few. And we just wrapped up our 3rd year. Now, the show, we had Keanu Reeves on, we had Jerry Seinfeld, Will Forte, Seth Meyers. It's a good little hit. It's a good little car hit. A lot of positive reviews. They're very happy with it. They order the casting to begin for season 4 in November. and then 2 weeks later, hit the pause button, and just just wait 1 minute while we figure a couple of things out, right? Right? And so we go, what could that be? Let me check the ratings. Ratings are good. They've been going up every year, and look around at some other things, and everything looks great with the show. We're like, what's happening here? And then I think middle of December, I get a call from the guy who runs the network, and he says, well, Dish TV dropped us. And DirecTV also dropped us. So these networks have to make deals with the carriers, Time Warner, DirecTV, all these people, and they weren't able to make a deal. Esquire being part of the NBC Universal family, they said, we only want to make a deal for these 7 or 8 channels. But don't worry, everything's fine. Let's talk after Christmas. In other words, we don't want to tell everybody they're not going to have a job at Christmas and holidays. We want you to be obsessing about it for the next few weeks. And then we're going to tell you sometime in January. So a couple of weeks into January, then we get the call. The network is going bye-bye. They couldn't get I think the way they put it was they're transitioning to a digital-only network. But we're firing all the executives and all the staff of Esquire. But yeah, and Car Matchmaker will live there. Like, what about new shows? Yeah, there's nobody around to help make the new shows. So we're in the process of, and it's weird. I've never had a show that's a hit, that they call it a hit, where the network dies around it. Right? It's never happened, right? It's crazy. And when I talked to Adam Stotsky, the president of the network, he goes, we were making a lot of money. He goes, this last year, we made $56 million in profit at Esquire Network. What? He goes, the ratings for the network have been growing by 15, 30% every year. Your show especially has been carrying us. And still, that's the skinny bundles. Do you guys know what skinny bundles are?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I think I don't quite understand it myself, but I think everything is on demand right now. I'm sure if you guys are watching TV, you're watching it on demand, right? So most of America is doing that, and they don't want to order 500 channels. They don't want to pay for 500 channels from Time Warner or from wherever. So they have these little skinny bundles. So instead of all of NBC Universal's channels, you just get the top 6, USA, NBC, whatever they are, right? CNBC, MSNBC. Not Esquire anymore. So we're just a casualty of this transition into on demand. But the show, I'm hopeful, is going to live on. We've got some serious interest from some other people, but we're in this weird negotiation with NBC to get the rights back to our show.
That's
so
what I
we
was going to ask you.
Take it somewhere else.
Whether or not you own it. I mean,
I think we will soon. I think it's I leave that to lawyers and agents, but there's serious interest with some bigger networks, and I'm pretty excited about doing it. Wow,
that's great. So that could be like one network dissolves and a bigger network shows up to run
it.
Yeah,
no, it's all good. I loved working with the people at Esquire. It was a really cool place. The executives were great, and they kind of let you make your own show. They never really interfered. So, it is
well, sure, they
a
all
bit
know
of
they're
a
going
bummer.
away in about a month and a half.
Yeah, no, it was an awesome place to work, and we had the support of the full NBC network, so it was neat.
Well, I'll tell you what I thought was promising about that place was I thought their brand, Esquire, was a great brand. Like immediately you had recognition.
Yeah,
it wasn't like just some made-up new network with a logo. I mean, I thought, wow, Esquire. You knew what it was. I felt like, oh, wow, that's something for guys, and yet it's got a classiness to it.
Yeah, but then again, you're taking a print magazine property and mixing it with a television network property, so the synergy of two dying media.
Well, they didn't really. The network was. I mean, the magazine wasn't really involved with the network. It was they bought the aesthetic, and like you said, it was upscale men 18 to 49 who are secretly gay. That's what I used to say as a joke. But
it's like
but that's what it was. So there was an idea behind it. Man at his best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus Spike.
Versus
TV,
Spike,
which is not man at his best.
Right, but even now, take Spike TV, for example. They're transitioning out, too, into the Paramount Network, I believe.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, a lot of what you're going to see happen, and I have a front row seat to it right now because I have a production company, and where we buy and sell stuff, a lot of these smaller networks are going away.
Really?
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me to see, at least this year, maybe 5 to 10 of these little networks that you all know just disappear or transition into more blue sky programming, more like a USA Network type network. Broader appeal, incorporating women, because there's just not a market for these smaller networks right now.
Because all the narrowcasting can be done
right
show by show.
Right. We'll take it a la carte wherever you sell it,
right,
and watch it. Right.
I was just over in Asia, like literally,
2 days ago?
30 hours ago,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was weird to see a lot of them. There's American product being repurposed over there.
Really?
Yeah.
And of course, there's Asian product being repurposed over here, not in.
There's a Cambodian Edge show.
And
it's amazing.
This podcast exists there, which is bizarre. Spike had a late night talk show on Fox, and I loved that show. I thought I really funny. I think I may have first become aware of you through that show.
I think that's where we met. Yeah. Because I would come over to the morning show, right?
Yeah,
and we met over there.
Yeah, I did the morning show on Fox, and you were, you're on the network.
I feel like you're so young. Did you start in this business at like 16
I did,
years old?
when I was 12. No,
mean,
I'm
seriously.
old. I'm just an old guy. I just look young.
Well, you
Yes.
do.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Listen, the late night talk show
All right,
for
let's get
a
into
comic,
it. Yes.
and for a writer, that's a cue card from the Letterman show. By the
Oh
way.
yeah, look at that.
When his show was going up there, I thought, I should get one of the cue cards since that's what that
I
is.
have his coffee mug from the last NBC show in my office, right down the hill. Come on down.
I'd like to see that. Well, that's a better brag since you actually worked on the show. I had to buy it off eBay.
That was on eBay?
Yes, it was.
How much does that cost? A cue card from Dave.
It's a cue card from Dave, and I got it for not a lot. It was, I'm going to say, less than $200.
Wow, that's a lot of money. My brother does cue cards right now. He runs the cue cards for Fallon and Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
I can
really?
get you a cheaper cue card.
Yeah. Okay.
What are you willing to pay? Me
Well, we know
for a cue
I'll
card?
go up to a little less than 200.
If you can get, can I tussle your hair? What about that one?
Yeah, that's right. You at that moment. But so what I was saying was, I think for a writer or anybody in the comedy environment, certainly for you, it had to be an amazing thing to get your own
it was
late night
incredible.
show on Fox.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm a writer. I wasn't a comic. So when I called CA and said I know what it was. I wanted Norm Macdonald to host a late night show, and I went. I got Norm on the phone. He said, "Let's meet weirdly at Norm's." So I met Norm at Norm's and pitched him the show. And he said, "Well, what's the idea behind the show?" I said, "It's you. You're the idea behind the show." And he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's a late night show. It's a late night with Norm Macdonald's show. You're very good at telling stories, and we'll write a monologue, and we'll do act ones and act fives." And he goes, "Yeah, but what's the idea? What's the thing the thing is you, Norm. You're a guy who can host a late night show, and we'll plug you into that format." And he couldn't wrap his head around just that idea, like that we would take him like James Corden or Jimmy Fallon and put him into that structure.
His ego is just too Canadian for that.
What's that? Yeah, he just whatever it was. And I love Norm. He's one of the funniest guys in the world.
He's terrific.
And that's why I wanted to do it. But he just, it didn't work out. So I called CA up and said, "Look, he doesn't want to do it. Let's try it with me." They said, "What?" I go, "Look, well, if
I don't have another fallback.
If I'm being honest with you, I interned at Saturday Night Live, and I did a little writing there, and then I interned at Letterman, and I've been around this business a lot. And if I'm being honest with myself, I want to take this next step and get in front of the camera. And I know nobody knows me there, aside from a little extra pieces at Saturday Night Live and being on with Dave and stuff. But I think I can do this because I've learned it kind of from the bottom up." And CAA, Mike Rosenfeld, said, "All right, let's try it." And I think, originally pitched Broadway Video, and they bought into the idea and then quickly turned on it. I don't know what happened there.
That's Lorne Michaels.
That's Lorne Michaels. It could have been some history with Lorne that I have, or may not have been, or who knows. It's just the business. And I was in New York, and CA called and said, "Look, there's one last place, Fox Television Studios. Why don't you go in and talk to them?" I don't know why that's the last place. They're the only place that doesn't have a late night show. And the following week, I went in there, and I just caught them on a good day, and they said, "Yeah, let's try it." Conan was pretty hot at the time, and you're a writer like Conan, and Gail Berman was the president of Fox, and she was currently looking for a writer to turn into a late night host, and it all just kind of worked.
So when you have a meeting like that, I mean, because this is interesting for a late night show, it's you. Do you feel pressure in that meeting to light up the room or be funny? Or do you
No,
rehearse
I
some
should. I
lines?
really should, but I don't. No. What I do is I go in with a bunch of branded segments and kind of write the funny. And I believe it was a funny entertainment show in the beginning. It was called No Access. Is what I pitched, which is everyone else has all access. Yeah. We have no access. We're 2 blocks away from the movie premiere. Yeah. We're outside the building where John Travolta is. We're talking to Tom Cruise's barber, But that was the original idea, and as it evolved, it turned into just a straight late night show. I essentially did what Norm was telling me he wanted to do, but then turned it into what I originally wanted.
You had a bunch of segments. You had a guest on. You had like that traditional talk show thing in that regard. But then you did a bunch of remote stuff that was very funny out in the field.
Yeah, we did Idiot Paparazzi. It was myself and 3 real paparazzi chasing down real people that look like people.
That was really
people.
great. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And we did in studio, the viral stuff was like Little Bill O'Reilly. We found this kid who went on to Mad Men, by the way, who would do these Bill O'Reilly rants, and I credit them with getting me canceled at this point because someone
took on the wrong guy at Fox.
Now I can connect the dots and see what happened. It went viral pretty quickly. Right. And back then that was, we were like, God, this is great. We have like a quarter of the budget of these other shows, but we're doing really well with viral content all of a sudden. We'd throw it on YouTube or Fox would knock it down, by the way, when they saw it there because they considered it intellectual property until they started understanding a million hits will promote the show.
Promotion,
right?
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was like a whack-a-mole. It would be there and it would disappear. In fact, most of the content from the show is already off the internet. They've taken it all off.
That's so effed up that think about that.
Yeah.
You kill for this viral content.
It's crazy.
They didn't get it at first. They only saw it as a threat.
Yeah, they would get angry at us, who's
first.
leaking stuff, and it was us. I remember being on a Hertz rental bus and hearing this thing we did about The View on there and going, this is really fucking cool. It's working. The stuff's getting out. And then one morning I'm watching a Fox show, a local Fox show in New York, morning show, and they have a guest, Bill O'Reilly. And the 2 people who are hosting the show go, well, in a minute, Bill O'Reilly's going to be here, and we're going to ask him about this. And they play a clip of little Bill O'Reilly, right? And they go to commercial. Now I'm like, oh, my God, this is – because I know at this point he's not going to be happy about it if he knows about it. And I've had to go to Fox News to kiss the ring of Roger Ailes, and thank God it was just the ring. And
where was he holding the hand?
Dirty, meaty penis area. But I had to do that. So I'm acquainted with what, how they feel about jokes, right?
Yeah.
So they come back from commercial. Bill O'Reilly comes out. The whole interview, they don't mention little Bill O'Reilly. And I go, oh, fuck. Right. He saw that. He's mad. But whatever. Okay.
Right. He said, I don't want to talk about that.
That must have happened because they promoted it and nothing happened. So, all right, fine. Months go by. Then this idiot network executive, Preston Beckman, is that his name?
Preston
Beckman, who was fond of telling me how much he hated my show and how much his kids hated my show whenever I saw him. Real stand-up guy, wonderful man.
Wow, that's a rough greeting.
He decides to send Bill O'Reilly the little Bill O'Reilly clips from the show, including one that references some sort of sexual harassment line it was a rough cut that had line from a sexual harassment.
Because Bill has had a history a little bit of.
Yeah, there was some comment there. I don't even, the writers were putting them together, but I do know that wouldn't have stayed in to air. But he sends it all to Bill O'Reilly, and it wasn't long after that we were canceled.
When they canceled you, did they just? How does that? That's just like crib death that just happens one day, and you don't really, or do they?
No. We were always fighting to stay on the air because they didn't really have a plan for us. Largely where we were on the air because they forgot we were on the air, I think, and then we started, doing really well. We had Peter Chernan's attention because we had the #1 clips on Hulu. And that's all they were trying to do was create content on Hulu at the time that worked. And suddenly this stupid little late night show is getting all of these viral clips on there and doing really well. So we're all doing okay at that point. And then Ligori and Chernin left or were fired. I don't know how that worked out. And that was our support. And then quickly it just goes down the hill right after that.
Sure,
the next guy isn't interested in having a late night franchise. There are a lot of sitcoms lined up. Monday through Friday in syndication, so we have no space. So it just kind of disappears there. But shortly after, I got a call from New York Magazine, I think it was, that said, we're pretty certain that you got fired because of your Fox News criticism. Because at the time, George Bush was running, and the writers, a lot of the writers were from The Daily Show. So there was a lot of criticism because he was the guy to make fun of. He was the one who was screwing up the most, and Obama really wasn't. And they wanted to write a whole piece on it, but I just went, no, I don't think so. But
wow,
apparently that's what happened.
Well, when the New York Magazine people who are more connected to that whole world of news and O'Reilly, they're really connected to it.
We had never heard anything about it where we were, and it wasn't until that moment that I went, now I'm connecting all the dots.
Yeah, when they suss it out, that means something.
It goes back to when they turned us into an hour-long show, when Mad TV went away, too. They said, they were brought into an executive's office, and they said, why don't you be the guy who criticizes and makes fun of Obama? And I said, what? They go, everybody's doing George Bush, but why don't you be the Obama guy? And again, I didn't think much of it back then, but now I look back and I go, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, it was.
Now I understand. And, I was saying, look, I would, but I need an angle on him. Do you have an angle? Because he seems kind of boring and he doesn't do stupid shit like the other guy does.
Yeah, compared to.
And I don't know if there's an audience for that. It's not funny because I wasn't playing partisan politics. I don't care. I'm right in the middle. I just want to be funny with whatever's making me laugh.
This was like the end of Bush's second term and when Obama was running. Then?
Yeah, right.
God.
So it was. So it's interesting.
But so the show was on the air for how long then?
3 years.
Wow, that's great. I mean, that's a real
late
run.
night show in Fox history. And I think we could have kept going with it.
You beat Joan Rivers.
But we fought. They didn't promo us at all. They realized they didn't really promote the show in any way.
It did not exist apart from when it was on the air.
Exactly, and it's unfortunate because we'd still be on the air today.
It was really a treasure. Yeah.
So there's nothing online. There's none of your content is available. That's crazy.
It's all off. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some of it is on Funny or Die, but very little of it. Someday I've got all the DVDs.
You did something where you're going house to house once. I don't know. I remember that bit. You had that microphone. And you're going.
Yeah, I used to use the Gene Rayburn mic, really long one that I could reach to people this far away and tap them on the face with it. And
Which he invented, incidentally, I found out.
He did?
Yes, he actually invented it for himself.
I didn't even realize that was the right reference, but. Yeah, I love Man in the Street stuff. That's what I love the most. We might be doing something with that, because it just came up. Somebody just asked me if I'd be interested in doing this kind of Billy in the Street style show, and I think I might try that. Yeah, it is fun. It is dangerous, though. I was almost stabbed once by an Armenian man who did not like that I kind of implied that his roommate was his wife. And it was a man.
Yeah.
It was just a harmless little joke.
They really take that seriously.
Well, the Billy on the Street, I haven't actually watched an entire thing, but I feel like his is more self-deprecating to whatever celebrity he's with, or does he?
Yes, it is. He's very good. He's really, really funny. And that's probably the way to go. But
look, you'd have a great time with that kind of thing. It's funny. I had never thought of that, though. Billy on the Street's so hot, and it really is funny. And now, of course, there are going to be a bunch of Billy on the Streets.
Yeah, maybe.
Someone is going to die. You're right. I mean, there's just too many people that are stabbing.
Hopefully during sweeps.
No, you know where people get. I'll tell you where people get mad is when you turn the camera on them.
Yeah.
If you don't ask them first, they get infuriated.
Yeah.
Like,
I believe
what
it.
What are you doing? And that's the moment where the attacks come. I had some guy tried to kill me with a bottle of laundry detergent just because I turned the camera on him. He just started swinging at me. And that's funny, I'm just like, you're really, this is assault with Dowdy or whatever it is, Dowdy.
I'm going to die to a bottle of Ivory Snow.
Tide attack?
Yeah.
But you got to imagine there's people that don't want other people to know that they exist on a planet.
That's right. Yes.
That are hiding from ex-wives and child support. And
well, they have to sign a release at the end of it, but they don't know
that's
that.
True.
Especially in Little Armenia, where we shot the show. Yeah, there's a lot of felons in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a definitely tight community.
I know someone who was in prison, and he said, definitely don't use your debit card through Burbank, Studio City, and any Armenian gas station, because there was a lot of them in prison for fraud, credit card fraud.
Well, wow.
Yeah.
That's a word from the inside. I love that.
And nothing against the Armenians, by
Not
the way.
that
We don't want to sound like we're attacking the Armenian
But try to find a non-Armenian gas station in the valley.
But you would never be in Burbank or Studio City, given that you are
Aren't you
over
supposed
here.
to look for the little tape on the gas station thing that shows it hasn't been pried open?
No, I don't know.
Right? If you look where the numbers are, there's supposed to be a piece of tape that goes across that little gap there. And if there isn't one, don't put your card in. Take it from somebody who knows.
It's some good information. Right
Tell your inmate friend that we got to work around.
We got to know.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. And you, Spike, you are a feature film writer also. You wrote the Bee Movie, didn't you?
Yes. The
with
biggest
Jerry
movie
Seinfeld.
of 2016.
I mean, seriously, that was a huge film.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It had this new life on Twitter last year. I don't know if you followed any of that, but it was the most tweeted movie of 2016. Now, the movie came out in 2006.
Oh, so when you when you say the biggest movie of 2016, that's what you're referring to?
That's what I'm referring to, yeah. Okay. Vanity Fair called it the biggest animated movie of 2016 is Bee Movie. Now, none of us understand why, if we're being mocked by the internet or celebrated by the internet. We're fine with all of it, but it's never been bigger than it is right now.
Why?
For some reason.
You really have no idea?
I know this girl somewhere in America printed up the entire script on a T-shirt and then it started being passed around in Facebook posts. Like, as instead of a love letter, you would send the entire script of Bee Movie to somebody. It reduced into one little JPEG, and so again, like it's hard to understand what
That's
that
bizarre.
is. And we started going, well, should we make Bee Movie 2?
Obviously.
or are we reading this the wrong way?
Well, first Bee Movie, you know Jerry, you've collaborated with him, you've written stuff with Seinfeld. So was it that collaboration that just sort of birthed this feature film? I mean, it's a big deal to put a feature film together.
No, it was Jerry had dinner with Steven Spielberg, and Steven asked him if he wanted to do an animated movie. Or I think asked him if he wanted to do a movie, and Jerry said, yeah, I'd love to do an animated movie. And he said, well, what do you have? And he said, I don't know. He goes, I do this joke about the bees and how the humans should be suing the bees for honey or something. I don't remember what it was. He just said, essentially, how about bees? And we'll call it Bee Movie. And Spielberg said, yep.
See, what's crazy about this is it's like
There's another one. There's another 2-word pitch in the history of film and television.
You read all these books on how to sell your show and how to do all of this, and then here you come with 2 stories that are 2-word pitches.
Well,
granted, Spielberg and Seinfeld, yeah.
No, but still, I learned this when I was a writer on Letterman, even a junior writer. If you can get your piece into your title, you can sell it with the words in your title. Like, once I wrote Biff Henderson's Golf Cart of Death. Now, anything I say after that doesn't matter. Dave is going to do that piece because he wants to say Biff Henderson's Golf Cart of Death.
Got it.
Right? That you understand? And I really do believe that any of us can sell anything if you have the right title.
That's great.
And you shouldn't go in with the Untitled Spike Feresten project. You should go in with that. You should take some time to think of those words because it works.
Because part of the strategy of pitching to whoever you're pitching to is you are teaching them to pitch it to the next person.
Correct.
When you're pitching.
Exactly. Yes.
So if it's shorter, it's an easier lesson.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. People don't think of the next step. After you leave the office, they have to say, hey, I had a meeting with Spike Feresten, and here's the and you're right. If it's a easily defined hook, by virtue of the so Bee Movie. How long does it take to write that thing?
Oh, God, it felt like 10 years.
I mean, that is a big deal, man.
It was, Jerry called up and he said, look, do you have time to help out? Because it was when I was launching the late night show. And anytime, I just hadn't been a writer in a room, especially with Jerry, for a while. So I jumped at the chance. I was just like, yeah, you mean I could just sit there and pitch jokes and I don't have to really bear the weight of responsibility? Yes. So Andy Robin, myself, and Barry Martyr would fly to New York for like a week at a time and work in Jerry's office and put it together. And, it was Jerry's thing. We kind of just helped him out with it. But it takes an awful long time. 3 years. They have this really interesting thing they do when you have a script finally approved. I mean, one of the biggest arguments we had in the movie was, who is this movie for, right? And if I ask you, who is the movie for, what would you say, what demographic?
For Bee Movie?
Yeah.
I would say it was more adult than kid just because the concept was
you're
litigation.
Like Jerry. So you're on the Jerry side.
Yeah.
I was always like, kids are going to this movie, Jerry. This isn't.
No, I don't think you're wrong.
I
think it came out feeling more like an adult movie.
It did, right, because that's, the direction Jerry took it. But then the weirdness of an insect having a relationship with a real woman, right? Which could be the reason the internet is all over this. There's a bee having a loving relationship with a woman, right?
I love this town.
And as you're writing it, if you think about the writing it, we're just writing Barry. So Barry and Vanessa. So, we're just writing. We're forgetting that Barry's a goddamn bee. and we were always kind of battling that issue with it. Like, well, what are we doing here? Is this a love story between a bee and a woman? And then, they do all the drawings and the animation, and then you kind of get locked into the story. You're trapped in it, and there's nothing you can do. So, you just make the best of it.
Well, I mean, once that tug of war is over, then you are making the movie the way it and the die is cast, and then,
But we had a lot of fun doing it. It was a great deal of fun. But there are many horrible little pieces of it that I like things to go fast, and that doesn't go fast enough. So I remember they took one of our scenes and they said, we're going to bring in storyboard artists. Everyone has a different style, a different voice, and they're going to put their drawings up for every couple of lines. But so one looks like the Jetsons, one looks like CGI, one looks like an old black and white Chinese chalk print, and you're just, you're very quickly you're lost.
In voiceover, they show you a picture of the animated character that you're doing the voice of,
right?
And they have a full-on description, of course, of the the background on the character, but that picture is really important because that picture is supposed to connote something or represent something that you're supposed to be able to identify along with the description as you audition. When you're actually creating the characters, are they giving you, as you say, sort of different pictures and you're going, oh yeah, that's the one. That's the guy who we're writing about?
I don't remember. I think Jerry was doing a lot of that. Yeah. I mean, we were thinking about different actors to put in the different parts. It was always funny too because because it was Jerry, we could pretty much get whoever we wanted to. But you get these very famous people who weren't very good at voiceover. All of a sudden, you put them in front of a mic and they couldn't use their hands or their face, and it wasn't, it didn't work. And then you're like, oh, geez, we gotta fire that person. So it's not gonna be good.
Spike, we need to fire somebody. Get in here. Right.
My kids liked it. When my kids were young, this is the little bright spot where I live when I think about it. What I think about is the young kids. There's no villain in it. Aren't afraid of that movie. So it turns out it's really for 2 to 5 year olds, and there's no scary bad guy in it. And parents always tell me that's what they like about that movie. So that's what I choose to think about, not the mocking on Twitter.
Well, there's few things that, I mean, that's what Sesame Street always had going for it. There's enough bones for adults, that they could watch it with their little kids. And
I wanted to do killer bees. I was looking to do this big kind of killer bee invading the beehive and kind of this terrorism kind of theme. Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a cool movie, too.
Right? Maybe that's Bee Movie 2.
I love that.
Let's do
Killer
that.
bees.
Right. The killer bees come in. Yeah. And then it's there because once you start...
Some sort of wall allegory could go in there, too.
Well, look, I'm going to make your head spin with the logic problems we had, all right? So once you have this bee leaving the hive and talking to humans, right? You're in a human world, right? But Jerry also now wants to go in the beehive. And in the beehive... there's cars and homes and a coffee machine and this other stuff, right? So you understand where logic is kind of broken right here?
Sure.
So I would say to him, I go, look, Vanessa takes a beehive and cracks it over her knee. It's just going to be a bunch of brown waxy paper and goo and bees running around. But you're saying the bees' only job is to make honey, yet there's a car in the beehive. Who made the car, Jerry? Who made the car? And there was this recurring argument about a MetLife windbreaker that Barry Martyr, one of the writers, wanted one of the characters to be wearing a MetLife windbreaker.
That's funny.
And,
right,
it's really funny, right?
Yeah.
And Jerry would say, there can't be a MetLife windbreaker. And we'd be like, but if there are cars, there has to be insurance. And if there's insurance, there's MetLife. There's... we were in this crazy place of trying to rationalize how can there be a bee Larry King, but then a real Larry King in the real world? What does that mean? So does it mirror the real world outside of the hive, or did just naturally Larry King evolve naturally as a bee?
Who's going to write the Bee Bible here?
Yeah, the Bee Bible. We needed a Bee Bible for that movie. It was really out there.
Did you ever find some resolution?
No, just endless arguments. And then what happens in those movies is you run out of time.
Yeah.
You're sending pages. It gets animated. It gets locked. It gets closer and closer and closer. So 50%, 75%, and then you can't change major things. Right. You can only kind of change lines here and there, and then you can't change anything. So it's it's almost like clay, like watery clay that suddenly hardens right around you, and you're like, oh.
I guess that's the scene.
There's your script.
Right.
There's your movie.
Right. The philosophical conversation's over. Now we got to just see how we do. Right.
3 years went by. Here we go.
Did
Premiere
you?
Time.
After that movie was so big, you didn't want to get right on to another feature? Or it was too slow a process for you?
Well, Jerry's a stand-up comedian. It's really Jerry's thing. It was up to him whether he wanted to do one or not.
Right.
It did okay. I think it made $350, $400 million all said and done, which isn't
That's
bad.
okay.
With international. But Jerry was happy doing stand-up. He kind of did it. He felt like he made the movie.
And I'm not pushing for another B movie. That's just sort of. But
I've been pushing him lately for it. I pushed him
I think
early.
it's going to happen.
I'm on Team Spike. I'm wondering why you what in your
I don't
head.
own any of it. Why would I?
No. But you were part of it, so
right?
you can't call up Barry Goldstein over at CAA and go, hey,
Katzenberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg,
whomever. I'm just saying, in other words, I guess what I'm getting at is
I don't want to do that.
Your appetite for that was not
No,
whetted.
it's too slow. It's too slow.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, having started at Saturday Night Live and at Letterman, what I liked is reading a headline and doing something with it, as quickly as I could. And then on Seinfeld, you'd write something, and then a few months from then it would get shot and then aired. And that's kind of why I went back to late night and hosted my own shows, because I wanted that immediacy. I wanted to read about news and be part of that conversation that's going on.
How do you feel about? Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, I was the head writer of Kinnear's late night show on NBC, and there was a time when he started doing movies, and we had to start banking shows.
Right.
And it just became this totally meaningless exercise.
You get lost. You get lost. You're guessing, or you're not relevant that night. When there's something going on.
I was just moving to this sort of resurgence of SNL as of late, and how do you feel about it?
It's fantastic, right? It's a good time to be a comedian, especially a political comedian right now.
It is and it isn't. I mean, I've been out there doing some stand up, and you lose like if they don't think like I was opening for a buddy of mine who's not a political guy, so his crowd is sort of a mix, and you can lose like 40% of the audience just gets mad and like that.
Well, that's different. I mean, out on the road, that's going to be different. It's always
a much
been
different
like that.
feeling than doing sets in LA. Or even in Minnesota.
No, I remember Dennis Miller used to talk about that before he was crazy conservative. Dennis Miller, he would lose, go down in the South, and his act wouldn't do anything down there. And he'd come back north, and it would. But I mean,
but people are
television,
especially raw right now. People are like more than I've ever seen it. Like during the Bush administration, there was some of that, but like this is a whole different thing where it's like spite silence almost now.
Well, yeah. Well, we've been taken over by the Russians. There's so much Russian propaganda out there right now that we're finding out about. That's the scary part of it is that But as far as SNL, I mean, they're killing it. They're really killing it. It's fantastic. Yeah. I always look at comedy as just I reluctantly poke fun where it's deserved. When someone kind of steps in it, that's kind of my target. Whoever that might be, right? It could be Rachel Maddow and the tax returns.
Unreal.
I've got the tax returns, and then, well, not exactly. So there's just a lot of fuel for comedy right now, and people, like you say, they're torn up, but at the end of the day, you want to laugh about some of it, whatever side you're on, and that makes a good environment.
And I still feel an obligation to do it. It's really just finding that tightrope.
Right.
I've got one bit that I can make fun of Trump supporters and still get them to laugh, and I will ride that bit every single night and milk it as much as I can. But
I just saw that the Daily Show numbers are way down. Have you watched it at all? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I think Trevor is a really funny guy. I just don't think he's the right host for that show. I see Jon Stewart come out on Colbert every once in a while and just kill it, and does 7 minutes of the old show, and you go, that's kind of what's missing,
Yeah.
And Trevor, who's a fantastic comedian, I just wonder, him not being from the United States right now.
It is a weird feeling.
It's a weird feeling. Yeah, you kind of
the bemused outsider.
Yeah, exactly.
But John Oliver does it pretty well.
Yeah, yet the British accent, we accept it. He's one of us.
Okay.
Yeah, remember where we came from. We left the king and we came over here, so we kind of like the British.
And he's super connected to the Daily Show vibe too. You know,
Yeah.
John, it's a pretty. It's rare though. I mean, Jon Stewart was so good at that job, so good at performing those jokes and the just with the looks and the incredulous looks, and that I feel like that's a missing from Trevor right now is that. The incredulous, like, holy shit moment of just performing the jokes a bit. If he could do some of that, I think he might. It may work.
Yeah, because Stewart was selling a lot of this with his passion when he was on and at his best. It wasn't. It wasn't always that the material was the sharpest thing that they had ever written.
Exactly right.
It was that his level of intensity,
right,
and incredulousness, as opposed to bemused sort of outsider, is what was making you get angry with him.
Right, right, yeah. And you never know. If things change or the environment changes, maybe he'll find his spot. It's a weird thing late night. You almost have to shove the guy down people's throats, and then suddenly there's this acceptance, right? And then you like him.
But right now, I think people, I think what Colbert's bringing to the table right now is some anger, and some urgency to the situation. Yes. And I think that's what people are feeling right now. Is it's like, what the fuck is going on in our country right now? Yeah. And if the person, and that's why I think Fallon is sort of sinking. Because he doesn't bring any of that, his whole thing is escapism.
Yeah, it's fun,
and people can't escape from it right now. So you have to address it with the urgency that people are feeling right now. And obviously, funny is important too, but without that tone, it feels irrelevant now.
Well, Bill Maher is the guy I watch the most.
Yeah,
I think of anyone right now.
Yeah, he's great. He had the line about the Rachel Maddow thing was funny. What did he say? It was like a liberal New Year's Eve or something with the countdown clock. And then it turned out to be
Geraldo's reveal of
when I saw it on Twitter, I went, "Oh my God! I hope she knows what she's doing," because what I just read is shocking. And I hope. And then very quickly she followed up and said, "I have 2 pages of the. I think because it spread like wildfire." Yeah, but and
it looks so clearly to be released by. I don't know.
Yeah, eventually, yeah, of course. It looks like Donald Trump released. It said client copy on it. So,
my one good year.
I wonder who did it, right.
Yeah,
but Bill Maher is just killing it right now. Bill is so sharp. He's so funny. That show is really an incredible show. To me, that show should be winning the Emmy every year,
I agree. I love that show. It's like, that's the one I don't miss.
Yeah, you've interviewed people. You know what it's like to have 3 people sitting there where you have to kind of prop up a live show, all of this information, funny comments on top of it, and, navigate this argument that's going on and stay on schedule, with a countdown clock. Right? That's huge.
Right. And also, you've got all these sort of disparate beliefs and arguments. And as you say, you have to have information. I mean, I'm amazed by the amount of information that he's got. And I know, and you'll appreciate this because I say this from time to time, I'm always astounded when a stoner has so much information ready to go. Yeah. And Josh always says to me, Mark, you're just going to have to accept the fact that stoners,
Some of us can keep our shit together, Mark, okay?
But Bill Maher is that
guy.
But
Bill Maher just fires these amazing pieces of information off also.
And I like, I saw him recently. I don't know him well, but I was sitting next to him at this thing, and I said, what makes me laugh is when you yell at your audience when they don't laugh hard enough at something, or they
when they
boo you.
He scolds them for oohs.
And I go, I really think that they think that you're the liberal progressive mouthpiece. And he goes, I know, they do. He goes, I'm not. And I go, I know what you are. I go, you're Bill Maher's mouthpiece. He goes, yes. This is what I feel. I'm not playing sides here. This is just what I think. The politically incorrect Bill Maher. And that's what's great about him. He's one of the few guys out there doing something just about what he feels, his personal feelings about what's going on, and let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah, his show, Politically Incorrect, was aptly titled for what he is all about. Right, yeah. Well, so what should we do? Look for you at the next stoplight? Where do I see you?
Well, I'm.
Where can our
I've got
vast
some
audience
stuff going on.
follow
I just
you?
shot a pilot that I can't really talk about, but maybe it'll go. The big thing I'm working on is this company, Hangar 56. you know,
where does that
as
name
you
come
transition, as you get older.
Why is it Hangar 56?
Hangar 56 is because it's a startup that started in my hangar at Santa Monica Airport.
All right.
And my partner's hangar, he's in Hangar 6. I
You
was
have
in
a
Hangar
hangar?
5.
You have a plane?
No, I have cars.
Oh, that's right.
I've been
Cars,
down there
cars,
for
cars.
20 years. There were I didn't have a garage, so they have these old like airplane hangars with padlocks on them. So we're out, you know, making shows. We've been in business for about a year. We're selling stuff all over the place, car stuff, scripted comedy, and all sorts. And that's where I'm primarily focused right now. I'm going to launch a podcast, a car and comedy thing at Podcast One, and you know, Car Matchmaker should be reemerging soon. So
That's
there
cool.
you go.
Podcast One, they pay you over there?
I hear they do. I hear you get revenue. That you get revenue.
We want no part of that then.
Yeah.
No, we do not.
Do I
We do
believe
not.
it? No, I don't believe it. But
Some of us are just in it for the love of the game.
Yeah. We don't want to be bound by money.
I am doing it for promotion for the car thing. You know,
I see.
so-
And it'll be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. You have to come on.
Yeah.
Talk about Hellcats.
I was going to say I'd swap the Hellcat out for almost any other car in that hangar, sight unseen. I'll bet
Really?
you've got some great.
What's wrong with your Hellcat?
No, I love
It's
it. I love it.
fantastic.
No, I love it. But it would be good to, you know, like experience some other stuff. It's a little, you know, you've dated
You
one
know what
car
you
for a
want is
while.
a
You're ready
99
to-
you want the brand new Turbo S Porsche. That's what you want.
Wow.
It's the
What
fastest,
did you
greatest
have?
car
Yeah.
you'll ever drive.
The brand
I'm
new
in love with
Porsche?
it. The brand new Turbo S is one of the most incredible things I've ever driven. You can use it all over the place. No, the
Isn't that
only
what
problem is it costs a couple $100,000. But
Wow. Where did you drive it?
Porsche gave me one for a week. I get free cars. This is the greatest thing about doing a car show.
That is
You
the greatest
You call
thing.
up anybody, and they drop a car with a full tank of gas in your driveway, and you keep it for a week, and that's it. You don't even have to write about it.
My friend just got the Acura NSX.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking
That's
about?
an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Tell me about your friend. Who is your friend?
Yeah.
What do they do?
He's a cop.
He's
a wealthy cop.
A wealthy cop?
Yeah.
So he's on
A
the take.
dirty cop. That's what we call that.
And what made him choose that?
I don't
That's it.
know.
He's the
No.
first person I've ever heard actually bought one. It's
No,
an
that's
amazing
a sports.
car.
It's like a
it
couple
looks like
$100,000
it kind of looks like a Ferrari. This
Yeah.
car.
Yeah. It's their little supercar. It's
Doesn't
the actor's little
Seinfeld get free
supercar.
ones of those
He
now?
did get a free one, yeah. I think he just featured it in Comedians in Cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was in it with him. It's a pretty quick little car. It's a good car for the
You
money.
don't like it?
No, I do. I wouldn't buy it, but it's just but at the same time I think it's a great choice. I liked it when I drove it.
Cool.
For
It's
sure.
like a Hot
It
Wheel
looks
for
really
adults.
fancy. It does. It looks like a Hot Wheel.
Yeah, I tend to buy things that I can sell on the way out, so I don't lose that much money. And if I do it right, I make money. So I like I have a new GT3 Porsche that I've had it for about I think a year and a half now, and I'm going to be able to make a little money.
And are you constantly turning them over and
Yeah, you can
switching them
just
out?
keep moving forward. Your wife doesn't get mad at you, and you're just saying.
I think
no,
we made
it's-
money on that.
Yeah,
thing.
We made a little money. We
If
made
your
a little
last
money.
car buys the next car, it's not a problem.
That's right.
Right,
And in
okay.
older cars, it's a lot easier to do.
But you mentioned your wife just on the cars as we finish up here. Does your wife go, hey, Mike, let's mellow out on the speed a little bit on that Porsche? I mean,
Yeah, she's on her 5th Prius right now. She does not like going fast. She was in a car accident when she was 17, a pretty bad one, with her boyfriend who was driving a Porsche, coincidentally. So she hates all of it, really. She really hates all of it. But that Turbo S I was telling you about,
Oh yeah.
we were at an event in the middle of the week that I had the car, and I ended up going out with my guy friends, and she said, let me take that car home. Like, she doesn't drive any of these Porsches. And she had on Louboutins, leather pants, and she'd had a glass of wine. Right? She wasn't drunk, but earlier in the evening, she had a glass of wine. And I said, are you sure? This is, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, but I think you're going to love it. And she zipped by in the car, zipped that way. It was Jerry. So Jerry and I went out and we were having coffee, and we were just calling her nonstop. And we finally got her at the house, and we said, put her on speaker. Give us the review of this car. We have to know what Prius girl thinks. And she was blown away by it.
Oh, wow.
She goes, it was the easiest, fastest, most beautiful car I've ever driven. I want you to get one, but don't. But if you did, this is one car I would actually drive.
That's
She goes,
one that
"I
they loaned to you. In other words, you didn't buy that car.
No, but when I came the next day, I said, "Here, take the keys to my new GT3," and she wouldn't go near it. She goes, "I don't like the wing; it's too much of a race car." And I go, "This car is slower than the one you drove last night."
There's a spoiler on the back.
Yeah,
right?
there's a spoiler, and everybody goes, "That's so gauche," or what? No, it keeps the ass on the ground over 160. There's function there. It's not style; it's function. They don't care.
No.
But anyways, Turbo S is for everyone.
What does a Turbo S cost?
Couple hundred, I think. They're 200, and they depreciate like hell. But look, it's worth it.
It's a show business car then. Hey, Spike,
it's worth it.
Well, you live right down the road. Come by once in a while.
Anytime. All right. Yeah, I'd love to.
Come party.
I'll see you at a stoplight soon.
No, or you
I'm
won't.
gonna try that move. I'm gonna try that move
That's
right
my
now.
move, motherfucker. Spike Feresten. Thanks, pal.
Thanks for having me.
I want to thank you for all the ways that you support my friends on the Edge podcast. And if you haven't already, why don't you show your support and subscribe? What's the matter with you? Go to Edge Show. Oh, it's Edge Dash. What's with the dash? Stupid. I want to thank you for all the ways that you support my friends on the Edge podcast. Show your support and leave something on their website, edge-show.com. Stupid. Why is there a dash?
edge-show.com.